25 million stitches, one stitch, one refugee is a global participatory art activism project. 2000 to 2010, it took 10 years for the number of refugees to double, and then the next 5 years, it doubled again. So the rate in which the number of refugees were growing was remarkable. A refugee trying to put his child on a boat, perhaps knowing that he's never going to see her again, just stayed in the back of my mind. And initially, I was shying away from engaging with it because I thought, what can I do as one individual seeing this incredible suffering? I had an opening of the heart, and I was following the UN Refugee Agency's report. And in 2019, the number had reached over 25 million. And I wanted to see how big this number was. So I decided to do a data-driven work, make a single mark and repeat it 25 million times. House it in one space to understand how big 25 million is.
I mean, it's hitting people here, and that's what it's supposed to do. And art, in the best sense, does that.
Humanity, it values the human condition.
Refugees are people who are fleeing either extreme weather, genocide, persecution.
ISIS came, I was like, we don't want you anymore here. You know, leave or die.
And they're the ones who leave their border, their country, because they have no other option but to do that. I consider myself art activist. I use my art to raise awareness about environmental issues and social justice issues. My name is Jennifer Kim Sohn, and I'm a fiber artist. I'm from South Korea. My family moved to the United States when I was a senior in high school. It was easy to personify United States as this superhero. It seemed to even wear this hero's cape of human society's highest ideals, where her citizens can enjoy freedom, equality, and opportunity to pursue her happiness. And I'm bringing this up because, as you know, 25 million stitches is about refugees, and there's a very big distinction between immigrant and refugees. Refugees are the ones who have no option whatsoever but to flee their country. And many of them don't want to do that. They just have to for their survival.
My name Nora Badin. I'm Assyrian Iraqi. So when I was in Iraq, I started making art. We are the indigenous people of Iraq, and when we had Saddam Hussein after, I believe, 1991, he was forcing us to not be called Assyrian anymore. And then after 2003, he's gone, and then ISIS started killing Assyrians, targeting our churches, and then it's really hard to talk about it every time I remember. I was like going to work and there's a bomb in my way, you know, seeing death, people died in a way as well. I was lucky to have the opportunity to get to United States, get my bachelor in art with the School of Art Institute, work on my statement to give voice to voiceless, and artwork that represent children and women.
9 months into this project, it really didn't look like we were going to get this done at all. It started in May of 2019. There were hardly 2 million stitches, but luckily there were 2 students from Lithuania. Their success was actually convincing the elders that stitching for refugees is the way to validate their own history of being constantly invaded by neighboring empires. They stitched 70 beautiful panels, and when we put that on the social media, that's when the project just took off. It was so overwhelming, everybody wanted to participate. I realized that this could be an opportunity to create community. So within 3 months, our community accomplished what seemed impossible: gather another 23 million stitches. So the first part of the project is for you to get to know one another by talking about, this is a community for me because, and then you come up with a design that represents that concept. So let's make bold visual statement and use the stitching to enhance your concept.
So is this the color we're going to use for Cedarburg then?
It's a beautiful portrait of Presley.
She told us a story about how the community in Cedarburg are so lovely and friendly, even strangers. They help you right away if they know you are in trouble or need any kind of help.
Refugee crisis is a symptom of much larger problem that we need to address: extreme weather. More than half of refugees worldwide are climate refugees, which means that any of us could be displaced. And the average number of years the refugees stay in the camp is 17 years. The way we degrade the environment is from how much we spend and how much we produce. That's not something that could be addressed with policies. It's something that all of us can do. Sharing that burden so that it's a little lighter for the people who are experiencing it.
Number one goal was to make sure that we showed every panel. It was both a math problem and a rigging problem. We had to string all of the wire to make walking paths so that people could experience the work in solitude, but also we are a fiber arts organization, and so having a global community art project that's based around fiber is really powerful.
Those individual panels, there are over 2,300 of them, over 2,200 people that actually helped to create those individual pieces. You know, there are over 400 of these long banners. Quilts and fiber art are not light. We're lifting those up, trying to be incredibly careful about what we're doing and how we're installing them. This was several years in the making. One of our volunteers, Nina Edelman, actually told us about the initial idea.
Nina, so she sent me a handwritten note encouraging us to take a look, and she had also participated in the project as one of the stitchers.
I learned about the 25 million stitches from a quilt guild in New York who decided to take it on as a project. I saw what these members, men and women, did, and I was blown away. I thought, well, I should finish my panel and have it about the southern border. I did a quick little map of Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, and people going to the border. But also I thought about my 4 grandparents. One set of grandparents was blocked from getting into this country, so went to Cuba and became Cuban citizens, actually, before they could emigrate.
So some people chose to incorporate objects from their family history. You know, their ancestry comes from a different place. Unless we're Native American, we are all immigrants.
This photo is of my father's mother, who came from the small village of Kotzirizi in the Peloponnese of Greece. The panel is for my Yaya Eleni, which means Grandma Helen, although she was always called Eleni. The centerpiece, that's one of a set of napkins from her hands. I could already embroider, but she was trying to show me how to do what's called in Greek the filet crochet, the edging, and I couldn't. We were trying to do it hand over hand over hand. And she would pat me and she would say, "It's okay. The day will come that you will be able to do this with your own hands." I think she would have been really happy that there's something with both of our hands. Her hands would be on her heart. She'd be hugging me. She'd be trying to touch all the panel. She would say, "Pedakimu, pedakimu, pedakimu, po 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 po." Pedakimu means my child. It's an endearment.
A craft of any kind, but especially stitching, can transcend barriers. The stitchers actually was able to put themselves in the shoes of the refugees and almost took the virtual tour with them. And that time that you need to stitch with flex, the time that we need to spend to understand and study global refugee crisis, because it's such a complicated thing. And I think that's what makes this exhibit so powerful. We belong to human race, but we have our individuality, and that's what makes us beautiful.
These are mostly on muslin. The panels move. It's almost too much to take in just at one visit. You know, you kind of get that overall sense of what this is in that first visit, but then you need to come back to see the rest of it and actually be able to take in the rest of the panels.
I walked through here more slowly than I've ever walked through any museum exhibit anywhere. And it was like I didn't want it to end. You almost don't want to go on to the next one until you're sure you've seen every single stitch on the first one.
I told Jennifer, you know, this work really is going to hang beautifully in this space. The smell of the cloth, how it's going to feel, what it's going to look like, how the viewer is going to experience it.
Here, in this warm, over 100-year-old barn, there's so much compassion and support in every single panel. And to have that in that warm embrace is a wonderful thing to see. The more important goal of this project is to share it with the rest of the world. By having the exhibit seen by as many people as possible, it would be a beginning of opening our hearts.
We have a Statue of Liberty who says, "Give me your tired, your poor." We all know the Emma Lazarus poem. This exhibit gives dignity and honor and presence to people who should not be walking or swimming or crawling or waiting to live.
What you see here is almost like love letters to the refugees. Although we don't know how hard their hardship is, we are behind them.